What's up, YouTube? I'm here doing my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Waterson versus Hill. Just to let you guys know from now on, I'm probably gonna wait up until the card starts, just until this pandemic stuff is over, just because I feel like every single time people pull out and fights change, and that's what I was hearing about this card, and I was right. I mean, I think 3 or 4 fights changed right up to the weigh-in, so let's start. I'm just letting you guys know these videos are always gonna be right around Friday from now on, up until, this stuff ends. First fight is Sabine Mazo versus Justine Kish, and to me, I think these chicks are both kind of just okay strikers, okay grapplers. I think Kish is just a little bit better. I don't have too much to say about this fight. I think it could go either way. I just think they're pretty evenly matched, and I'm just leaning slightly towards Kish. Next is Brian Barberina versus Anthony Ivy, and to me, I think Anthony Ivy is like an athletic guy, an okay striker. I just think Brian Barberina is the better overall striker, and he throws better volume. I think Brian's got better conditioning too. I just don't think Anthony Ivy, unless he catches him in the first round, can beat him. I think the longer this goes, the more it favors Brian, and I think Brian's going to win by TKO in like the second or third round. Next is Brock Weaver versus Jillian Turner, and to me, I like this fight more for Brock than who he was matched up with before. I think Jillian, he's the more younger guy and a higher prospect, but I think I think it was Frank Camacho was the much better grappler, and I think he hit way harder. I think in terms of striking, Jillian's better in the distance, and Brock's better on the ground. I mean, better in tight quarters. I think on the ground, I actually give the slight advantage to Brock. I think he's the better overall wrestler. It's really tough because Jillian's taking this fight on short notice too. But I think the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Brock. I think Brock's got the better conditioning, and I think that the more he can keep this in the clinch and just beat him up against the fence and, eventually drag it to the ground, I think the more it favors him. So I'm leaning towards Brock. I think that he's either going to win by a decision or maybe like a very late finish in like the third. But I'm leaning towards Brock. Next is Alexander Romanov versus, I can't say this guy's first name, Martinez. To me, Martinez is a good fighter. He's been around for a long time. He's fought a lot of good people. His record's like 17-6. Alexander, he's 10 or 11-0 outside the UFC, and when I looked him up, he's actually beaten some decent people. I don't know how good he is, but he has beaten guys with some pretty good records. It's hard to tell how good those guys are, but when you see guys 10-0 and they've beaten guys with solid records and they're not just like all 0-1 dudes, it gives you some confidence in picking them. Like I said, Martinez has probably fought the more legit, heavier competition, but I think Alexander's shown that he has beaten some good people, and I think that overall, especially if this is on the ground, I'm leaning towards Alexander, and I think that on the feet, Martinez probably has a slight advantage, but I think Alexander is going to drag it to the ground, and I think he's going to win by submission with like a rear naked choke. Next is Kevin Croon versus Roosevelt Robertson. To me, Kevin Croon is just a really fun guy. He's not super skilled anywhere. He's good. He's got good striking, good jiu-jitsu, but he, he's beaten good people and he's lost to good people. His record's like 22-12. I just think that Roosevelt Roberts is too good. I think that he's not gonna get caught with any huge random shot or any wild submission on the ground. I think that Roosevelt is going to be able to take him down, control him pretty easily, and eventually, take us back him by rear naked choke. And I think it's going to happen in the first. I think, other than Kevin Croom catching him with something wild, I don't think he's going to. 9 times out of 10, Roosevelt wins this fight, in all honesty. And so I'm just leaning towards Roosevelt. I think he, like I said, gets to the ground, wins by rear naked choke, probably in the first. Next is Julia Oliva versus Sijara Eubanks, and to me, this is how I felt about Sijara's last opponent. I think Julia's the much better striker. I think that she's slightly bigger, and I think if Sijara can't get to the ground, I think Julia Oliva is just going to outpoint her for 3 rounds. And this is what I see happening. I think that Sijara's not going to be able to get to the ground. I think Julia's just the better striker, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think she'll finish Sijara, but I think she's going to edge out all 3 rounds and win a pretty clear 30-27 decision. On to the main card, the first fight is Billy Quintello versus Kyle Nelson, and to me, these guys are pretty similar. They're striker jiu-jitsu guys, but I think the huge difference is when Billy is on top. I think that if Kyle's on top, it'll be close, but if Billy's ever on top of Kyle, I think it's going to be a really dominant one-sided beating. I think on the feet, it's pretty close. I give the slight edge to Billy, but like I said, I think if Billy ever takes this down and is ever on top of Kyle, I think he's going to really dominate him. And this is what I see happening. I think sooner or later this fight will hit the ground, and I also think sooner or later Billy will be on top of him. And when that happens, I think his ground and pound is just going to eat up Kyle. Because like I said, Kyle's just a top game jiu-jitsu guy. His bottom game jiu-jitsu is not that great. He's been finished by ground and pound before against someone that I don't think was as good as Billy on top. So, like I said, sooner or later Billy's going to get on top of him and just crush him with ground and pound. And so I'm picking Billy to win by first or second round TKO. Next is Bobby Green versus Alan Patrick. And to me, this fight's really tough just because Alan's such a good wrestler. I think in terms of striking and conditioning, Bobby Green's just way better at both. In terms of overall grappling, I think it's, Alan's definitely got the slight advantage. The thing is, Alan is really good at shooting for takedowns and getting guys down and holding them down. I think that Bobby Green really needs to be able to force his way back up to the feet. And I think he will, because Alan hasn't fought in a long time, and he was already a pretty old dude. I think that Bobby Green's been fighting way more consistently as of late, too. And I think the longer this goes, the more favors Green. I think that if he can, survive the first round and a half, and just keep hitting him with decent shots, I think the finish is going to materialize probably in the third. I just think other than Alan taking Bobby Green and holding him down, that's the only way he can win this fight. And Bobby Green just has way more ways to win. And I feel like I said, the longer it goes, if he can, just force Alan to work, especially early, he should be able to get the knockout in the third. So I'm picking Bobby Green. Next is Ed Herman versus Mike Rodriguez. And to me, I think that Mike is definitely the bigger guy and probably the better overall striker. But I think Ed's just significantly more well-rounded. I think that if Ed ever takes this fight to the ground, he's going to have a massive advantage. I think Mike, he's shown he's not the greatest off his back. I mean, if Ed's ever on top of him, I think he's going to probably be able to submit him. I think when it's on the feet, it can go either way. If anything, Mike's probably got the advantage because he just hits harder. But I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think Mike has the greatest takedown defense of all time, and I do think that Ed's going to do that. I think that they're going to be striking a little bit. Ed's going to clinch up with him, and then take down him against the fence. And once he's on top, I think it's just a matter of time. I think he's going to pass guard, get him out, and just start beating him up and win by rear naked choke. Like I said, I see this fight just ending in one of two ways. Mike catching Ed really quick, or Ed just, getting this to the ground and slowly working for the submission. And I just think the submission thing is more likely. Ed's only been finished a couple times, and Mike, even though he hasn't been finished a ton, he's been taken down way more times than Ed's been knocked out. You know what I mean? I just think that's way more likely that Ed's eventually able to drag him to the ground, get on top of him, either beat him up for 3 rounds or work for a submission and get a sub. And I think he will. Because I think most of the guys that have taken Mike down aren't high-level black belts like Ed. I think Ed's a much better jiu-jitsu guy than most of the guys that Mike has fought. And I think that's going to be the big difference is once Ed's on top of him and takes his back, he's going to win by rear naked choke. Next is Roxanne Modafferi versus Adriana Lee. And to me, I don't see this fight being too different from their first fight. I think it's going to be a really close back-and-forth fight on the feet and on the ground. They're both striker jiu-jitsu ticks. I think Lee's got the better striking. Modafferi's got the better grappling. They can both fight in each other's world. And I think Modafferi is just a little bit better overall. I think that she's the slightly better wrestler. And like I said, the slightly better grappler. And I think her striking is getting better all the time. I think that she's going to win the key positions, especially on the ground. And I think as long as she doesn't get wild on the feet, I think Modafferi is just going to slightly edge out 2 of the 3 rounds. I think this is going to be a super close fight. I think it might be fight of the night, but I'm slightly leaning towards Modafferi. I just think, like I said, I think her overall grappling and the fact that she'll probably be on top more when it's on the ground is going to slightly edge her out a close split decision. Next is Ottoman Azatar versus Kamala Worthy. And to me, Ottoman is a really good grappler and just an okay striker. I don't think he's the greatest wrestler. I think Kamala Worthy is the better overall athletic fighter, and I think in terms of his wrestling, he's probably a little bit better. And without a doubt, in terms of the striking, he's better. This is really, in my opinion, a striker versus jiu-jitsu guy. And like I said, Ottoman's a good striker too. I'm just saying, in terms of who's way better, it's clearly Kamala Worthy. And I just don't think Ottoman's going to be able to take Kamala down. And even if he does, I mean, we saw in Kama's last fight, who was it? Luis Pena had a really hard time controlling him and looking for submissions in the second round. He had his back almost that whole round. I think even if Ottoman's able to take it down, I don't think that automatically means he's going to win by sub. You know, Kamala Worthy's never been submitted. So I just think that the longer this goes, it favors Kamala. And I think that I don't even know if Ottoman can take it to the ground. And if it's on the feet, I'm picking Kamala all day. And I think it will be on the feet. So I think Kamala's going to win by either round 1 or round 2 knockout. Next is Michelle Waterson versus Angela Hill. And this is the thing. In this fight, I think the longer it goes, the more it favors Angela. I do think she's the better condition fighter. But I really don't think it matters. I think the thing that a lot of people are forgetting is how much of an advantage Michelle Waterson's going to have on the ground. And the fact that she can probably get it there whenever she wants. I don't think Angela Hill has the greatest takedown defense. She gets taken down in almost every fight she's in. She just doesn't always get submitted. But it's just the truth, especially in the first round or two. She gets taken down in almost every single fight she's in. And I think Michelle Waterson's going to do the same. I think if Michelle Waterson just takes her down and works for that rear naked choke, she'll get it. I think Michelle Waterson's one of the better jiu-jitsu chicks that Angela Hill's fought. And, you know, it's just one of those things. I don't think it get past the first round. I think they're going to tie up. Michelle's going to take it down, and when she takes her back, I think she's going to win by rear naked choke. Like I said, if this does go the full 5, I'd pick Angela. I think she'd win 3 of the 2 rounds. But I just don't think it matters. I think that their striking is not that huge apart. It's just a conditioning thing. And I think that it's not going to matter because, like I said, anytime this fight's on the ground, Michelle Waterson's got a big advantage. And I do think, especially early when they're fresh, she's just going to take her down and win by rear naked choke. So I got Michelle Waterson winning by first round sub. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.